All right. Hello, everybody. This is the Granger Avenue Traffic Calming Meeting number 2. On behalf of the City of Ann Arbor, I'd like to thank you all for joining us again and giving us this opportunity to engage with community members. These traffic calming projects are resident-initiated efforts, so without your participation, they wouldn't be possible. If you didn't get a chance to take the demographic poll that was up prior to the start of the meeting, we'll relaunch it at the end of the meeting, and then you can fill out the survey at the end. So it's been a few months since our first meeting. We may have some new attendees here tonight, so I'll introduce our team. My name is Christy Thullen. I'll be presenting tonight. I am a licensed engineer in training at Wade Trim Associates. Wade Trim is an engineering firm based here in Southeast Michigan. And I have been working with Lori Pollock and Chris Wall, who are both professional traffic engineers at Wade Trim. We are working on the Granger Avenue project and other projects on behalf of the City of Ann Arbor and their traffic calming program. My role here is project coordinator, so you may have seen my name or the Wade Trim logo on project communications like mailing packets or emails. Lori has been helping with the engineering and safety designs, and Chris has been our client manager working internally with the city. Lori's joining me tonight and will be monitoring our Q&A and providing technical background to any questions that might come up. And because we are working on behalf of the City of Ann Arbor, we've been working closely with the city's engineering staff. Andrea Wright is an engineering analyst for the city and is the traffic calming program facilitator. She's provided Wade Trim with all the tools to make this partnership as seamless as possible. And Cyrus Nahidi is a professional engineer and has provided a lot of the technical background information that we needed for this project area. Raymond Hess is the city's transportation manager. He oversees the traffic calming program. Raymond and Cyrus are both joining us tonight to help answer any questions that might be outside this Granger Avenue project, but are still specific to Ann Arbor. Here is our meeting agenda for tonight. Most of tonight's time will be dedicated to the traffic calming process section, where we'll review and discuss each of the devices. And then as a refresher, the next few slides are a technology overview. If you're joining from a computer or using the Zoom app on your phone, there are 2 ways of asking questions or providing feedback. You can press the raise hand button here at the bottom of your screen. This will notify me and the other co-hosts that you would like to speak. When recognized to speak, one of us will unmute you. You can also lower your hand with that same button. And if you would rather type out a question or a comment, you can press the Q&A button next to that. A chat box will appear. You can type it in the text box and hit send. Please make sure that if you want your feedback to be sent anonymously, to please use that checkbox there. And then I don't see anyone calling in by phone, so just as an FYI, if you call into a meeting by phone, you can request to speak by dialing *9. You'd be recognized to speak by the last 3 digits of your phone number. The host would unmute you, and then you'd be able to speak. You wouldn't be able to use the Q&A function, but again, I don't see anyone here who's dialing in by phone. Throughout the meeting, there are going to be multiple points where we need community feedback. We'll use the Zoom's polling feature to gather feedback. Again, computer or app, once the poll is launched, it'll automatically pop up on your screen. You'll answer the poll and press submit. Once the poll closes, results will be shared. And then to stop viewing those, you can press stop viewing results. Computer polling is anonymous. If just as an FYI, if you're dialing in by phone, polling is not anonymous. You'd have to be unmuted and voice your response to the poll. So in that aspect, it's not anonymous. So as a test, we will launch our first poll. Poll question reads, do you live in the designated project area, Granger Avenue between State Street and Packard Street? Choices are yes or no. All right, I'm gonna end the poll. Results should pop up on your screen. Great. During the presentation, and especially during any feedback from your fellow community members, please keep these Zoom norms in mind. Start on time, end on time. Please use the raise your hand function to be recognized to talk. We'll only have one speaker at a time. If you are speaking, please try to be in an area where there's minimal background noise. Make sure to speak loud and clear so we can all hear you. And this group is relatively small, but I just want to point out that everyone will be provided a chance to speak before we start calling on repeat speakers. That way we make sure everyone has an opportunity to voice their opinion or ask a question. Please be respectful of other ideas and perspectives. We don't want finger pointing in this meeting. We want to try to differentiate between I know, I think, or differentiate between facts and opinion. And then as a standing rule, any inappropriate written and or verbal comment or language, including personal attacks, accusations, will all result in the attendee being removed from the meeting. Please use the Q&A function freely. As I said, we'll be monitoring it, responding to the questions or comments as they come in. We'll try to answer as many of them live just in case anyone doesn't have the Q&A screen up, just to make sure it's caught in the recording. There are multiple chances throughout the presentation for feedback, so to keep with our agenda and our scheduled time, we may not allow any speakers right away, but we do have times throughout the presentation to make sure we address any raised hands. If there's anything I'm missing or anything that you think should be added, I just want to pause here. You can use the raise your hand function. You can use the Q&A, but if there's anything that you feel we need to add, we'll pause here for a moment.
No questions, Christy.
All right, thank you, Lori. Okay, so let's move on. You are looking at your preliminary plan for Granger Avenue. This design is based on feedback from meeting number 1, where we proposed the starter idea that was back in December. We answered questions, we heard feedback from attendees. We had a lot of productive discussion. And then after that meeting, prior to today's meeting, there was a mailing package with device descriptions sent out to all of the project area residents and owners. We also set up a self-guided tour that had descriptions available at each device location, and we marked it in spray paint. But as a refresher, we'll review each of the devices that you see here in the plan, and then we'll go device by device and walk through the plan itself. So what you'll see in the plan is a speed table. You can see a fully constructed example of a speed table on Glenwood Road near Washtenaw Avenue. Speed tables are raised devices that extend the full width of the street except for the gutter. They're typically 22 feet long with tapered edges, a flat 10-foot center platform, and 3 inches high. Speed tables are shown to reduce traffic speeds, volumes, crashes. They're designed for bicycle safety and minimal impact to emergency vehicle response time. Shown here is a raised crosswalk. The example shown next to it is on Forest Avenue near Woodlawn Avenue. Raised crosswalks are raised devices that also extend the full width of the street except for the gutter. They're typically 18 feet long with tapered edges, a flat 6-foot center platform marked with crosswalk striping, and are 3 inches high. Raised crosswalks are shown to reduce traffic speeds, volumes, crashes. They're shown to increase pedestrian visibility. They must be compliant with the American Disabilities Act. They are designed for bicycle safety and have a minimal impact to emergency vehicle response time. And lastly, on the preliminary plan, what you'll see is a raised intersection. This example here is at Maplewood Avenue and Norwood Street. At a raised intersection, each leg of the intersection is ramped to raise the entire intersection 3 inches high. If there are pedestrian crosswalks there already, those can also be marked and raised to the same elevation. Raised intersections are shown to reduce vehicle speed and increase pedestrian visibility. They must be compliant with the American Disabilities Act, and they are designed for bicycle safety and designed to have a minimal impact on emergency vehicle response time. So these were the slides that you saw in your device description, either in the mailing packet you received or at each of the locations in that self-guided tour. If you have any questions, general questions about the devices that we just went over, please use the raise your hand feature or the Q&A feature, and we'll take any questions just as a general about what those devices do. The next few slides will be specifically about how we place those devices throughout the project.
There's no chat questions.
Okay. Oh, I see we have a raised hand. Jeff, I'll unmute you. Or here we go.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So a general question here with the 4 traffic calming devices. Based on data in general, how much speed do each of the traffic calming devices, what's the speed reduction per traffic calming device? And then the other question is, was our 85th percentile number 31 point something, I believe, and what factually with data, generally speaking, what do the engineers think the reduction in speed on Granger be with those traffic calming devices implemented at all 4 different areas? Thank you.
So there's varying speed reductions for the devices. The speed, some of the tables are a little bit higher, 20, around 20%. And then the raised intersection, I think it was around 10%. And those are reducing the speeds mid-block as well.
I can add to that too, Lori.
Yeah.
Jeff, the numbers, like the specific data, is pulled from studies of larger project areas. In this case, only being a couple blocks, what we really look at is how the devices fit together. So one of the things that we really focus on is the spacing between the devices. And there is, our target goal is to bring the speed to 25 miles an hour, the posted speed limit. I know the 85th percentile is, you're correct, over 30 miles per hour, but our target speed is to really bring people down to the posted speed limit. So we want to make sure that, sorry.
I'm sorry to interrupt. That's awesome. I think we'd all like to see it too. So that's great.
Yeah, so we definitely looked at the spacing, like all of these devices. There are numbers attached to the studies on the percentages or the average percentages that were shown of how much speed reduction was seen in those studies. But in this smaller scale, we look at, if the device is something that will keep the, reduce speed, but also maintain a proper flow of traffic, not, and we space them just so that, we don't want to bring everyone to, like 10 miles an hour. That wouldn't be a good practice to bring them below the speed limit there. But I hope that answers your question, that there are numbers, but in this case, on the scale of the project, what we're looking at is mostly the spacing and the type of device.
So the overall pattern.
Right.
And that makes sense. Thank you for answering my question.
Of course. Brad, I see you have your hand raised. I'll ask that you unmute. Hi, Brad.
Hello. I went out today and interviewed some of the various devices described in the letter. And I started out on the raised intersection described as where is it? At any rate, I started at 20 miles an hour. No effect. No discomfort. 25 miles an hour. Pretty much the same. 30. Shouldn't be here, but you know what? I could do this at 30 miles an hour all day. I went to some of the other devices on that street, the one north of Packard near, the other devices, just simple speed bumps in conjunction with that intersection, I'd say were moderately effective. I also went to Forest Avenue and hit those at 25 and 30. You could do those at 30 without real severe discomfort. My gold standard is Iroquois, a street paralleling Stadium, behind Circle K at Stadium and Packard. And those are the stuff of nightmares. I said, they can't be as bad as I remember. I never drive that street. The speed bumps convinced me a long time ago that I really didn't like that street. So I said, we'll try them at 20, at 20. The sign said 5. 20 mile an hour was borderline car destroying. That's what a speed bump ought to be. Granger is problematic right now. And what is proposed, in my humble opinion, is a waste of time, money, and effort. I don't think speed, and that's an opinion, based on the examples you cite, you cite, they won't be effective.
I appreciate your feedback, Brad. And I'm glad that you were able to go out to the other sites and actually drive through.
And yeah, they were comfortable. I mean, just, I can see why the fire department doesn't mind them. It's like they aren't there.
I will say-
Iroquois, on the other hand, are deadly. You come to a stop and then you creep over those son of a guns.
Huh.
They are, I mean, Iroquois is an example of a street where you want or have to be on that street and no other, or you would not drive it.
I hear you. I'm going to,
I think you should
appreciate-
try, I think everybody here should try Iroquois. That's what we may need on Granger if we want to be effective.
thank you. I appreciate your feedback, Brad. I'm going to mute you. And then we'll continue. I will say that we have to discourage any idea of creating, putting up a device that would cause anyone to slow far below the speed limit, because that would in turn create crash issues as well. That's also a safety concern. Again, I'll restate that this plan is, these devices alone may have numbers attached to them, but this plan is created to work together. These devices are created to work together. If there aren't any more questions, I'm going to move on to device number 1, and we'll go through each device on the preliminary plan. We'll discuss it. We'll have an opportunity to answer questions specific about that device, and we'll take a poll for each one as well. So device number 1 is a raised intersection at White Street and Granger, at the intersection there. I want to note the original proposal in our starter idea at meeting number 1 was a residential traffic circle. After feedback, after discussion during that meeting, we came up with an alternate concept of this raised intersection. I know there was full support for the raised intersection. I want to say there was feedback after the meeting that some residents did not realize supporting the raised intersection meant that the traffic circle would receive a negative vote. I just want to clear, there was no intent to be misleading in that poll question. We did go back prior to this meeting, we did go back and look at the traffic circle again and realized that for proper spacing width requirements, street width requirements, the bump outs that you see here, which were installed several years ago, those would have to come out. And these bump outs are pedestrian facilities. So it would have gone against the city's mission and a safety standpoint to take away a pedestrian device. So that was the main reason we took the traffic circle off the table. But I just wanted to clear that there was a little bit of confusion. So as it stands right now, this plan shows a raised intersection Again, this is at the intersection of Granger and White Street. Like in the description, the pavement would be raised. Each leg of the intersection here would be raised to a total of 3 inches in height. So you would have a flat surface here, which would include the crosswalks. And this drawing doesn't show it, but this ramp would actually extend this way a little more than what the diagram shows, just to account for the fire department's requirement with this hydrant nearby. If there are any questions about device number 1 here, please use the Q&A. Please raise your hand. Brad, I see you have your hand raised. You can go ahead and unmute.
Okay, the crown on White Street intersects the crown on Granger, forming a reservoir of sorts. The catch basin at 1400 shown there serves to drain at least 2 blocks along White Street from Stadium to this corner. And there's a considerable volume of water. No matter how we police the catch basin, raking away leaves and debris, water is tending to pool at the intersection to the height of the crown. It then spills over the crown across White Street to reach the opposite catch basin. The depth of water is approximately curb high. At the crown, it would be almost 0, but at the curb, it's curb high. The addition of asphalt to raise the intersection will, in my humble opinion, again opinion, will increase the pool depth because the water cannot spill across where it does now. That location would be moved south of the crosswalk at a higher elevation. So there is an issue and a problem with drainage. I would prefer that a separate, distinct speed bump either side of the intersection be entertained. I don't think raising the intersection is well advised.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I can partially answer this, Lori, and maybe you would have an addition to it. But
Okay.
So I recall I made note of the drainage concern because there is an existing issue that's seen, especially at this intersection. When we did a site review of this project area with Ann Arbor engineers, as well as Ann Arbor city inspectors, and then Wade Trim engineers also looking at this issue, this device would not have any increase to, there were not any foreseen drainage issues with the installation of this device, but it would not address any existing issues that are seen out here. So
The slope of White Street runs towards Granger. If the water cannot, in this pool, cannot cross or pass over the crown near the edge of Granger, and if it is forced to go uphill to cross the Crown. In other words, south on White Street to cross the Crown, that implies that the pool depth will increase.
So for the raised intersections, as you may know, but I'm just going to give a little description of what is entailed with those for others. It involves ramping up each side of the intersection approach and then raising the whole thing about 3 inches. So at this location, like Christy said, it's anticipated that we're not going to fix any additional or fix any problems that currently exist at the location, but we're not going to be creating more of a problem. We're not going to be creating more water in the area.
You are simply going to make it more difficult for the water to displace itself, thereby aggravating an existing condition.
It's not anticipated that this is going to increase the amount of water or aggravate the existing condition. There were field reviews done by the team, and currently any problems that exist may still happen after the installation, but it's not going to exacerbate it.
I humbly disagree and would like to elevate the issue.
This is something to consider when we do the polling. I'll as a reminder of how the program is outlined, after today, when we take the feedback from both of the meetings, from any other interactions that we've had outside of the meetings, when we develop the final plan and send the polling card out, that vote is an all or nothing. It's you vote on the plan as a whole. I have one more question that has popped up. I'll answer it if there are any other questions or comments about this device. We'll get through them. But after that, I will launch the poll question on whether or not you support this device. And then just reiterate that once we create the final plan, the vote will be on the plan as a whole. At that point, there won't be any chance to say I support this but not this. And at this point, we may consider removing this device altogether from the plan, but at this point we would not consider changing the design any more than that. There is a question asking how long it would take to install this device. I can only speak for the extent of the process for creating this project. So following us developing the final plan and getting those voting mailers out to you all, to the project area residents, that whole process in the traffic calming program will take us up to early April. After that, we will attend, or we will put the resolution, provided it goes forward, we'll put the resolution into the city council meeting for them to make a final resolution on. That may not tentatively, we want to attend their June meeting or have this ready for their June meeting, but I can't speak to when they would plan it for construction. The construction itself shouldn't take more than a couple weeks, I think, Lori, if that sounds
Yes, I think,
Mm.
yeah, the question probably is more related to what you were just mentioning, the process. And then the installation wouldn't take more than, a week or two.
Okay.
And we have another question or comment. I am not interested in sacrificing the intended goals of this project for anything to do with water drainage, which should be considered a separate issue if need be. And one thing I do want to mention is any device that we would be implementing, we would be following standards such as drainage requirements, ADA, Americans with Disability Act requirements, things like that definitely will be included in any design that's going in. And that is all the comments and questions right now in the chat, Christy.
Okay. Thank you, Lori. Brad, I see that your hand is raised. I'm going to launch the poll first. And then if you still have a question about device number 1, I'll open up, unmute you. But there's a poll question I just launched. Do you support device number 1, raised intersection? This is at the intersection of Granger and White Street. Your options are, yes, I support this device and I live in the petition project area, or yes, I support this device but do not live in the petition project area. And the same for no, I do not support this device. And all the other polling questions are worded similarly to this. We do want to make sure that we know who lives in the project area and whether or not they support this. And if you're outside of the project area as well, we do take your feedback into consideration. Go ahead, Brad.
Yeah. You mentioned ADA compliance. How deep can water be in an ADA compliant crosswalk? I'm not being facetious. The pooling water occurs at the north-south crosswalk, at the west end of the intersection, and at the east-west crosswalk at the south leg of the intersection. And it's a problem now. It's a problem that may and will probably be aggravated by the raised intersection. And hence I support no. I say no to the raised intersection. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. I hear you. I just want to make sure that it's clear that we make sure that this project does not aggravate drainage systems. We have to coordinate with the city's stormwater and drainage engineers. But because this is an existing problem, likely this is something that this is outside of, if it's an existing problem, it's outside the scope of this project, unfortunately. I want you to know that I do hear you and I do hear your concern. It is something to consider. Whether or not you want to live with a device like this, but the issue of drainage itself, because it's existing, it would be outside of the scope of this project. Not to say that this isn't information that we pass along to the city's engineering department, but these devices, we're making sure that they don't have impacts to aggravate or disturb the drainage as it is now. Like I said, if it's an existing issue, it's outside the scope of this project.
So we do have another comment. I live 1 block south on Brooklyn Avenue, but unfortunately have to leave the meeting at this time. I want to nevertheless give my full support for the plan as designed as someone with 2 small kids that cross Granger. I will be very disappointed if this project gets torpedoed because of something like drainage issues. That person should submit an A2 fix-it request. It has nothing to do with this plan. Please move forward with this plan. I love it. Thank you. Thank you to the anonymous attendee who made that comment. And then there was also the other question, anonymous attendee, if this gets installed, device number 1, what is the option for repair later if drainage becomes an issue? And I think as with this project and all safety related projects, you know, it will be monitored, and any type of issue, drainage or anything else that comes up, you know, we will be monitoring it. And if there's something that you notice, please let us know.
Thank you, Lori.
Yep.
So we'll move on to device number 2. Device number 2 was or is a raised crosswalk at Granger Avenue and East Park Place. So there's already a crosswalk there. And what we would do is raise it. Again, a raised crosswalk would elevate the pedestrian, and because it's a raised device, it also works to slow down vehicles. Were there any questions about the raised crosswalk or the placement of this, or any questions on device number 2? Jeff, I see you have your hand raised. You can go ahead and speak.
Oh, yes, thank you. You know, I wasn't initially thinking about making a comment, but I look forward to this being implemented. But just as a resident on the street, and I know the traffic engineers and the citizens here in Ann Arbor and the residents on Granger, we can't control obviously how people drive. I'm just wondering if this is voted in and then everything's reviewed within a year. I'm just wondering perhaps if something could maybe also be added, and I'm not sure what that would be, to and I'm a novice at this, but just to help pedestrians cross the street and make sure it's safe as possible, because subjectively I see cars not even thinking about the possibility of someone walking into or across the street, and it's just disappointing. So I guess my overall concern is just I always want to make things safer for people, and then the children and the pets on the street. So that's just my general comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. I hear you that your concern is even with these devices, they won't be enough. So what you see here is the device, but any signing that goes along with the device would also be implemented. I'll also touch base on a question that was sent into the Q&A. Will there be any additional reflective or illumination around the raised crosswalk? So the crosswalk will be striped with those directional arrows as well. It'll be what's called a high emphasis crosswalk. So instead of just 2 lines up and down either side of the crosswalk, you see that path marked out in the pavement markings. Illumination, I know there's an existing street light. Sorry, get my laser pointer out here. There is an existing street light here. This red dot is a street light here. The program does not include any additional enhancements like street lighting or any other additional signs other than what's required for advance warning to people on the road. But I hear what you're saying as your concern is that this is not enough, or this may not be enough. Is that
Oh,
correct?
Oh, yes, I didn't realize I was still on, but no, I think it's great. I'm just from sometimes watching the traffic, during the summer or if I'm outside, I think this will make a difference. I guess since, I and all of us have the people that are in charge of this, it's a good time to just, hey, express everything and say, hey, basically I feel like this is our opportunity to say, hey, let's go for a home run. But I think, like what you've said, we have to see how it all works eventually, and maybe even something additionally added to this in the future might not make a bit of difference either. So I just had to throw that out there because just as someone on the street, I just wanted to be safe. So thank you.
No, thank you. I appreciate your input, and it is a valid concern. I will say that part of this program does include a 1-year follow-up. We want to see it implemented for a good chunk of time to see how residents feel and about living with these new constructions, and then also what they're observing from either watching other motorists or driving up and down it themselves. There was another question, why is there not a second raised crossing on the corner of Granger and Sheehan? I will go to this. I'll go back to the overview of the preliminary plan. So we just discussed device number 2 here. The question is asking, why was there not an additional raised crosswalk placed at this intersection as well? That is for spacing. One of the elements of the traffic calming as a whole is you want the devices spaced out pretty much as equidistant as possible from each other, just to make it more effective. Because if we were to put these raised crosswalks too close together, again, it like we said, we don't want to bring the speed down so low that people are traveling below what the posted speed limit is. So for that reason, we chose to space these out by placing that second device on Park Place rather than Sheehan, just to maintain some equal spacing between the devices. Jeff, I'm going to mute you.
Thank
I
you.
see you still have your hand raised.
No,
you have
no,
any?
actually, I'm sorry. I probably should have taken it down. I apologize.
Oh, that's okay. Were there any other questions before I launched the poll on device 2, or if Lori, if you had anything that you wanted to add?
No, just to touch on the spacing. The requirements standards recommend that you really don't go below 250 feet. It's just starting to get more, we do want to cause some of that vertical element so people have a little bit of discomfort to slow down. But then if you have too much and too short of a distance, that's kind of counteracting what you're trying to obtain with those devices. So that's another reason.
Thank you. And I apologize, you probably couldn't see it too well on that screen, but there is this preliminary plan is available on the project website as a PDF, and you can zoom in and out of it. So you probably couldn't see it too clearly, but the spacing as it is right now, most of the devices are spaced between 350 and 450 feet apart. So I will launch the poll for device number 2, that raised crosswalk at the intersection of East Park Place. Question reads, do you support device number 2, raised crosswalk at East Park Place? Please choose one of the following. Yes, I support this device and lived in the petition project area. Yes, I support this device, but do not live in the petition project area. No, I do not support this device. I live in the petition project area. Gosh. Or no, I do not support this device and do not live in the petitioned project area. I'll give a few minutes to cast your vote in the poll. And we'll close it, share the results. Okay. Moving on, device 3 is also a raised crosswalk. This is at the intersection of Granger and Golden Avenue. Again, this is an existing crosswalk. What we'll do is raise it. There are bump outs in place at this intersection. Again, that's a pedestrian enhancement, and this raised crosswalk is also a pedestrian enhancement. Similar to the device number 2, we chose an existing existing crosswalk because those sidewalk ramps are already there. We have it spaced out between the other devices. And if there are any questions about device number 3 at Granger and Golden, please use the Q&A or raise your hand. And I realize I have like a 10-second lag between me talking and you hearing, so I'll wait a few moments and then launch the poll. Okay, we will launch poll question number 4, which is, do you support device number 3, raised crosswalk? Please choose one of the following. Yes, I support this device and live in the petition project area. Gosh, yes, I support this device, but do not live in the petitioned project area. No, I do not support this device and live in the petition project area. Or no, I do not support this device and do not live in the petitioned project area. And I'll just give it another moment before I close the poll, if you haven't answered and would like to. Okay. Ending the poll. The results should pop up on the screen. I really think that device number 1 was really the major one that had a lot of different feedback. I'll stop sharing this and move on to our last device, which is a speed table. We are proposing that we place a speed table near 1134 and 1135 Granger Avenue. I did have a question or a comment, a question. I had a question sent by email a couple weeks ago asking why this device was not placed like in the middle of the Packard and Golden intersection. And I'll just state that one, we wanted to make sure that we had proper clearance from fire hydrants that are on the street there. And two, we wanted to make sure that there was proper spacing between the devices. So even if it's not directly in the middle of that segment between Golden and Packard, it's still spaced about the same distance as the other devices to maintain its efficacy of traffic calming throughout the entire project area. If there are any questions, other questions on the speed table? Mike, I see you have your hand raised. You can go ahead and mute.
Hi, Christy. Thanks for you and the team and your efforts. Really appreciate it. So yeah, I was the one that sent in the email, and you did answer it timely. Thank you, regarding the fire hydrant. I noticed on device number 1, there's a fire hydrant. So is that something different from this, or could you explain that?
Yeah, I have an answer ready for you.
Okay,
It's
thank
not,
you.
that's kind of on me. I did not update the diagram, but when we were out and did our site visit to mark that self-guided tour, we caught it that there was not proper clearance in the drawing that we had.
Okay,
So what we would do is if they were to construct that raised intersection, what they would do is extend that east leg. Go back to the slide here for
Okay.
you. So they would extend this
okay,
in this direction to make
Okay.
sure that there was enough flat surface that meets the fire department's requirement.
okay. So, and I just, and you've probably already addressed this as far as distances go, and whatever it ends up is fine with me. I'm just thankful that there's going to be something done about the traffic. I noticed that the distance between the device number 3 and device number 4 is a bit longer than the other ones. And I was wondering if it was possible to stick in a 5th speed table, 5th device speed table between device 3 and 4. And if not, then that's the way it goes. My fear is that you'll get, people speeding up to get to the next device, and that would slow it down a bit. That's it. I'm done.
Thank you. I hear you're saying between device 3 and 4.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of estimating it just by looking at this image, that it seems a bit longer than, let's say, device 4 and Packard or the other in-betweens.
Gotcha. This so the distance here is less than 400 feet between these two devices.
Okay,
Between device 3 and 4 is less than 400 feet.
okay, and 400
between-
feet, kind of the break point.
For our target speed limit, yes, and then we want to keep them roughly the same between each of the devices. So
Okay.
between device 2 and 3, also below 400 feet. Between device 1 and 2, roughly 400 feet.
Okay, thank you. Just thought I'd ask.
Yeah, of course. No, thank you for your question.
No, I'm done.
Okay, I'm gonna mute you and lower your
Thanks.
hand then. Thank you. Oh, sorry. Brad, I see you have your hand raised. Go ahead and unmute if you'd like.
Device 4 described as a speed table.
Yes.
The effect of the crosswalks, I think, is a little more severe than the speed table. Could the speed table simply be reduced to the dimensions of the crosswalks?
To a speed hump?
Well, yeah, or call it a crosswalk without a raised crosswalk without the paint, without the bars, without the crosswalk. It's a little more abrupt feeling and might reduce speeds more.
Yeah, I hear you. I don't know, Lori, if there's anything you can add, or Cyrus, even if you can add with specific Ann Arbor context, but I know that in the traffic calming guidebook that we have, the dimensions that they provide are typicals. So they can be tailored to the needs of the surrounding area.
Yep.
Yeah,
My
and
experience on Glenwood says that speed table doesn't do much of anything.
Gotcha.
Whereas the raised crosswalks experienced on Forest are more noticeable. Just road feel, just
Okay.
level.
yes, so ideally, the vertical element for these different devices, that the ones that you drive over, they're generally all about the same, around 3 inches, that they should be designed for. So that should be the abruptness that you're feeling. And then the differences between the two treatments that you're talking about, one of those, the speed table, has that 10-foot wide center platform.
Yep.
So
As
that
opposed
shouldn't
to
that
6
shouldn't
feet.
create really a huge sense of abruptness in itself. Like I said, it's that vertical element, which would be the same
Well,
on both
it's actually
devices.
the ramp that makes it's the combination of elevation change and the ramp to get there that makes the difference. That's why Iroquois is so abrupt. The ramp is like a foot long rather than 4 or 5 feet.
So I am going to
Save asphalt.
I am going to attempt to, sorry, I apologize. You might have a little bit of dead air here. I want to add an alternate poll question on here, but I am seeing that I was very confident in being able to do this and am suddenly not finding this feature. One moment. You know what I will do? First of all, were there any other? Oh, Robin, I see you have your hand raised. Go ahead. Robin, you're unmuted if you wanted to say anything. Oh, nope, okay. I think you're still unmuted. You're still free to talk, Robin.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? This is Cyrus Nahidi.
Yes, Iris.
Yes.
Robin, I just wanted to let you know it's possible we're getting a technical issue that we can't hear you. So if it's possible to, if we still can't hear you, it may be an alternate could be to type your question into the Q&A. I'll speak really quickly to the crosswalk versus raised or speed table question as well, while we're waiting on that question to come in. And Christy, if you're still thinking about trying to adjust the poll, but Brad, I think the tricky thing about trying to there are dimension differences between a speed table and a crosswalk, but as Christy mentioned, it's more, to some extent, it's about what will fit within, with constraints of driveways and things of that nature. So we can try to, I think it's fair to take that feedback into consideration. But truthfully, the biggest distinction between the two is less about the dimensions between them. I know you had different experience driving over different devices. That's honestly probably speaks a little bit to the variation of when devices have been installed over the years. There's been a little bit of evolution of some of the devices, but yeah, it's a little bit of a semantic difference, I guess I'd say. We certainly wouldn't want to accidentally. I mean, and I think you were not inferring this either, but we definitely, because there's no ramps and way to safely cross the street in an accessible ADA compliant way, we certainly wouldn't go that far down the path of marking it or anything like that. But in terms of the differences between dimensions, it's there's enough variation on that location by location, just based on where it needs to fit within driveways and other conflicts. So, but we can definitely take that that feedback into consideration with regarding maybe a shorter ramp and things like that. So.
Thank you, Cyrus. We have another comment. Anonymous attendee says, I'm in total support of this project. To address Brad regarding Iroquois is not an option. We were told this long ago because Granger is an emergency vehicle cut through, and those were never even a consideration from the start.
I apologize. I cannot for the life of me figure out how to add that another poll question. What I will do is I will launch, if there aren't any other questions regarding device number 4, I will launch the poll question, which asks, do you support this device? And go ahead and answer it as you'd like. If there is any desire to see a speed hump rather than a speed table, if you're able to drop it in the Q&A. I apologize if this is a lesson learned. When someone offers to show you how to do something, just say yes. But I will go ahead and launch the poll. I'll just give another moment. Again, if you would like to weigh in on sizing device number 4 to be a hump rather than a table, please use the chat. Please use the chat or the Q&A function. And I'll end the poll, share the results. And we did get a few responses also in the Q&A, and we'll be publishing them. Thank you. Thank you so much. So moving on. That was it. That was, oh, we're done. We've gotten through all the devices. I hope that you've all found the discussion helpful. And if you've came in with questions, that you've had them answered. So following today's meeting, we will post both the presentation and the recording to the project website. You should see that next week, by next week. If there are any additional questions that come up that we weren't able to have an answer for during the meeting, we will also post a discussion summary of any unanswered questions with responses to them. Those will also be on the project website. So between now and March 21st, what our team will do is get the final plan ready. So that'll be based on feedback from both meeting 1 and 2, from any other conversations that we've had with residents, with the fire department, all of our other stakeholders. We'll create the final plan. We will post it to the project website, and it'll be mailed to you along with that final polling card. Those will go out in the mail March 21st. You, like the other survey, you'll have the option to complete the poll by mail, or you can do it online. The deadline to postmark, if you're using snail mail, or to do it online, the deadline is April 10th. That's your postmark date. That's your electronic submission due date. The requirement after that polling, we'll tally everything. And as a reminder, the requirement to move forward is that of those people who participate in polling, there needs to be more than 50% approval of the final plan as a whole. So again, there's once the final plan is created, there won't be any chance to say, I support this part of it, but not this. So when you vote, it'll be on the final plan as a whole. And of the people who participate in polling, more than 50% need to support it. So if 10 people participate in the poll, 5 say yes, 5 say no, this plan does not move forward. It has to be 6 or more than 50%. So in that example, at least 6 people have to support the final plan. If that requirement is met, what our team will do is then request support from the Ann Arbor Transportation Committee. Our target is to request that support at their May meeting. And then what we'll do is we'll submit the plan for city council approval, and our target is to do that during one of their June meetings. There are target dates in place. It's not uncommon for meetings to get moved around, so that's the only reason why I don't have an exact date along with the month there. Oops. Sorry about that. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. That's my office line, that's my email, that's the project website posted. We have about 15 minutes left of this meeting. We'll be here for the next 15 minutes. I'm going to relaunch that demographic survey that was up at the beginning of the meeting. If you did not get a chance to complete that, please do so. It is something that the city of Ann Arbor uses so they can help improve on any public engagement efforts. So this is a very standard survey that they launch at all of their public meetings. Otherwise, I see there's some questions that I will address. I see that there's a hand raised. If you can't stay, please know that I appreciate your time. Again, if you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out to me. I see that there's a hand raised from Benjamin, so I will allow you to unmute if you'd like.
Hi, this is actually Ben's wife, Julie, and
Hi, Julie.
hi. I just wanted to say, first of all, I really appreciate the process and really thoroughly addressing the long-standing speeding issues on Granger, having lived here for 23 years, and that have really seemed to be exacerbated by the new markings on the street that imply one lane, and if there's no one coming, it is like open season to drive the speed you want to. So I very much appreciate the measures that you're taking. Along with that, and people have expressed concern about people compensating for having to slow down by accelerating between the barriers. I'm wondering if it has been considered to actually paint the speed limit of 25 miles per hour as a graphic on the street itself, so that it is just an in-your-face reminder that it is a residential street with that speed limit.
I can answer that for you.
Okay.
It's come up before. This program is very narrow in terms of what we can or can't present to City Council.
Okay.
How the program works is that City Council, they approved the guidebook. So I'll refer to it tons and tons of times, but the City Council approved the guidebook, and to help keep this, I believe it's mostly to help expedite the program and keep residents empowered, a tool for residents to be empowered to petition for changes. It has to be within the limits of that guidebook. So there.
I apologize if I've missed that being stated.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I actually think that was probably a meeting one thing, but I didn't intend to scold you for not reading the guidebook. That was not my intent at all.
Oh no.
It's just that the things like the only pavement markings that we would put down in this project are ones that are part of the device or that we're replacing existing ones. So if we put a raised intersection, it would interrupt those bike lane lines, the advisory lane lines, and they would be restriped. Or if we put the raised crosswalk, we'll put in the crosswalk markings. But unfortunately, things like the advanced speed limit on the roadway wouldn't be part of this program.
Okay.
I personally think it's a great tool for advanced warning. If Cyrus, if you know how that request would be facilitated, I know that I do keep notes of additional things, such as the drainage concern. I do keep those notes, and so once this project is over, we hand them over to the Ann Arbor Engineering Department. But if there's like a separate request that needs to be made, or a separate area of the project that, or a separate project that this would fall under, I can get back to you, unless Cyrus has context to add.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Christy. I mean, there are a few avenues for reporting. I think A2 Fix-It was referenced earlier, but yeah, given that it's in the context of this area and this project, I think your notes being, provided to us and to the rest of the engineering unit that isn't transportation specific, that's honestly probably the best starting point. And then if there's follow-ups, there's A2 Fix-It, there'll be, communication, I'm sure, with any individual, via email or phone or what have you as needed. But I think as a starting point, I think the notes related to this project that that fall outside of the traffic calming program, that's definitely a good starting point, is that we have those notes. So.
Great, thank you.
And then Sherry, I see you have your hand raised, so I just wanted to let you know you can unmute and speak if you'd like.
Thank you. I'm so sorry. I missed almost all the meetings. Something else came up at work. Can I give my input by emailing you tomorrow and letting you know, or is it too late to have any input today?
No, it's not too late. Feel free to email me.
Okay, I will email you. I'm sorry I missed the polling. Thank you.
Oh, not at all.
One other interesting comment, as I was out earlier this evening and saw another resident here actually trying to read the little sign right at Granger and
Yes.
White. And he looked very confused. And so I simply asked if he wanted, if he had any questions. And he said, well, he said, gee, this sign seems to say that this is a raised intersection already. And he said, I know they did a lot of work on the street a couple of years ago. Is this the way it is supposed to slow down traffic? So that gave me the opportunity to let him know that it wasn't a raised intersection yet, and try to explain a little bit more about what that would be. And the reason is to try to slow the traffic down. And he was interesting. He didn't give any positive or negative vibes, but he said he now knew more than he had. Thank you. So the sign, it wasn't clear to him what was going on.
Oh, yes. I realized I learned a couple of things after. First of all, thank you for your feedback and being able to be an ally in sharing, with someone. I don't know if they said that they were a resident of the project area, but so I learned a couple things when we set this up. So I guess it doesn't quite make sense what's going on to someone who didn't have the cover letter that was also attached to the mailing package, which explained, this is a self-guided tour. So I believe I'll work a couple things out, but in the future, yeah, I definitely want to make sure that there aren't people feeling like they don't have their questions answered, unless they happen to run into someone who already knows what's happening.
Thank you. I thought it was great that he was trying to read the sign.
But please, yes, please do, if you have feedback regarding the preliminary plan.
I'll email later. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Cherry. And I did want to address, Brad, I saw there was a comment that you left in the Q&A that alternatives to device number 1, raised intersection, needs exploration. As I said before, at this stage, we would not be considering alternatives to what's being proposed. Again, as we said with the raised intersection, this is vetted through the inspectors and through engineers, both at Wade Trim and the city of Ann Arbor, for drainage impacts. And we would not be proposing this if it was something we saw being a negative impact to drainage. But as I said, the existing issues, our devices won't address existing issues outside of traffic calming. So that would be something that would have to be addressed outside of this project. And then there was a request to put the timeline slide back up. So that's back up there for you. And Jeff, I see you have your hand raised. I've unmuted you if you want to speak.
Yes, thanks so much. I'll make it really quick. This it probably doesn't fall under the purview of the traffic engineers, and thank you for everything. But as everyone else is listening to, I don't know who I can contact about this, but for example, there's most probably a basketball game tonight. Usually there are basketball games on Wednesdays. And there is kind of like it's basically an electronic sign that is being pulled by a bicyclist who plays music, but also sometimes the ads are for, and this person went down the street about an hour ago, like for marijuana, or a marijuana national company that can be sold by one of the local, I believe they're 28, I could be wrong, marijuana shops. And also sometimes during the summer, we'll get the kind of like the pedal carts with people who are drinking and are kind of loud. Now, I'm not trying to be Mr. I'm no fun anymore, but I did call the city, and I'll make this quick because the meeting should be over soon. But I did call the city, and it seemed like people were surprised about the electric sign being pulled by a bicycle that also, when it passed by an hour ago, played loud music. So I don't know who I should talk to about that, but I just think because we have children, for example, on the street, or some people who don't take drugs and are or recovering from taking drugs or whatever, that what it comes down to is, personally, I wouldn't like the pedal beer type carts or this guy with signage coming down, but it is a free country. I understand that. And, but anyway, that's just my comment. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Jeff. What I will do is, there are a couple things that I don't have answers to right now. So I will post the discussion summary with responses to those questions, including this one. I do see that, Brad, you have your hand raised, so I want to unmute, or I'll unmute you so you can speak if you'd like.
I think I'm disappointed to hear that if there's a project, there will be a raised intersection for device number 1. I'm going to pursue other avenues, namely certain or people with the city, to see what can be done to ameliorate the standing water issue and cross the divide between this project and the city's interests or the city's responsibility for the drainage. I don't think they should collide or interfere with each other.
Mhm.
And I will facilitate resolution in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. If there are no more other questions or comments, we're at 7:30. We're at the meeting end time. Again, I just want to thank you all for spending your, what is it, Wednesday? Is it Wednesday? Wednesday evening? If you have questions, if you have any follow-up thoughts, please reach out to me. My information is on there. The project website address is on there. Like I said, anything that we didn't have answers for today will be in a discussion summary and post to that project website. But otherwise, I hope you all have a great evening and you can look forward to a email notification. Oh, that was the other thing. If you want to be on our email list, but I don't have your email, you can put it in the Q&A and I'll take it down and make sure you're included. That way you would get an update when we've moved on to the next phase of the program, which is that final plan. Otherwise, I hope you have a great evening and thank you so much for joining us.